Mm. Yeah.
Marble halls whispering candlelight.
Chapter 2. The Gilded Cage. The world assembled itself in a series of vignettes. First, the slow churn of clouds above the motorway, then the glint of wet hedgerows blurring by the window, then the gleam of an expensive dashboard as the engine purred beneath Serena's feet. She clutched a paper cup of water in both hands, its chill seeping through her fingers. Her reflection in the window looked like someone else, silk scarf tied around her forehead, sunglasses perching awkwardly on the bridge of her nose, mouth compressed as if someone had stitched the lips together with invisible thread. Beside her, Chad drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the leather gearshift. Every so often, he'd glance her way, not with affection, but with the clinical interest of a scientist monitoring a rare specimen. The interior of the car was all black leather and burnished steel, smelling faintly of new money and old cologne. The radio was tuned to a classical station, its music filling the silence with somber cello. They turned off the main road and up a sloped drive, wheels crunching over white gravel. A wrought iron gate opened in a slow, automated sweep, as if bowing to its master. Beyond, the house rose from the fog like a memory half-formed. 3 stories of weathered limestone, windows tall and narrow, roof lines spiked with 100 Gothic flourishes. Ivy coiled around the stonework, gripping it in a green embrace. Gardens unrolled in perfect symmetry on either side, trimmed topiaries, sculpted hedges, a marble fountain centered on a figure of blindfolded justice. Chad eased the car to a stop at the front portico. He shifted into park and turned to Serena, smoothing a non-existent wrinkle in his sleeve.
Ready, Lana?
The name hung between them, dense and intrusive. She nodded, swallowing past a dryness in her throat.
It's very impressive,
She said, meaning the house, the car, the life that had apparently existed before her memories had been swept away. Chad's smile was all teeth.
Only the best. For us.
He exited the car with the coiled grace of a jungle cat and rounded to her side, opening the passenger door before she'd even reached for the handle. He extended his hand. She took it, feeling the press of his palm, firm, rehearsed, the hand of someone accustomed to closing deals. As Serena stood, the world seemed to tilt. Sunlight stabbed her temple, igniting pain beneath the gauze. She steadied herself on the car, and Chad placed his hand at the small of her back. The contact was gentle, almost tender, but carried an undercurrent of possession, a silent assertion of territory. The front doors stood open, framing a woman in a sharply cut navy suit. Her hair, silvered and swept back, gleamed under the awning. She smiled at Serena in a way that suggested both welcome and warning.
Miss Hartfield, welcome home.
The woman intoned, her accent pure BBC.
I am Margaret Wilcox, house manager. Please let me know if there's anything you require.
Thank you.
Serena's voice felt like someone else's, pitched lower than she remembered, its shape rounder and more tentative. Margaret's gaze lingered on the scarf, flicked briefly to Chad, then returned to Serena.
We've prepared the east rooms, as instructed.
She gestured toward the entrance hall with a slight bow.
Please, come in.
The foyer swallowed Serena in a hush of luxury, a black marble floor veined with gold, a chandelier raining crystals from a 30-foot ceiling, a staircase curving up in twin arcs like the sweep of a swan's wings. Oil paintings of English landscapes marched in tidy ranks up the wall, each one encased in frames of Baroque gilt. The air was perfumed with fresh flowers, the arrangement so perfect that she was certain it had been ordered from a catalogue. Somewhere, a grandfather clock ticked in precise metronomic increments. Chad's shoes clicked across the marble. He paused by a lacquered sideboard upon which rested a silver tray with 2 glasses and a decanter.
Scotch?
He offered, as if this were an ordinary homecoming. She shook her head, the motion pulling at the bandaged skin above her brow.
Maybe water,
She said.
if it's not too much trouble.
Of course.
He poured a tumbler of spring water and handed it to her with an exaggerated show of courtesy.
To new beginnings.
He said, raising his own glass. She sipped, the water cold and tasteless against her tongue. Margaret hovered in the background, her posture immaculate, eyes never quite meeting Serena's. Chad cleared his throat.
Let's do the grand tour, shall we?
He guided Serena through a double set of doors into the drawing room. Here the decor veered from stately to sumptuous. Velvet settees in navy and oxblood, a fireplace as tall as a man and cased in carved stone, windows draped in silks that pooled onto the herringbone floor. A harp, dustless and gleaming, stood sentinel by the window. The only noise was the soft susurration of their footsteps and the distant haunting tick of the clock. Serena trailed her fingers along the back of a settee. The fabric was dense, almost slick. On the mantel, a row of cloisonné vases marched like soldiers. On the walls, more landscapes, more gold frames. She looked for something, anything, personal. No family photographs, no childish drawings, not even a discarded mug or dog-eared paperback. Every surface gleamed as if newly born. Chad watched her take it all in, his smile tight.
We like to keep things tidy here,
he said, as if reading her mind. She let her hand fall to her side.
It's beautiful,
she offered, though she could feel the falseness of the word before it left her mouth. He led her onward, through a library whose shelves creaked under the weight of first editions, a billiards room, green felted and smelling faintly of cigar, a conservatory where lemon trees crowded the glass and sunlight painted fractured patterns on the flagstones. In each room, he narrated,
The billiards table is from St. Andrew's, original slate.
Or,
We host charity teas in the conservatory, but it's nice for a quiet breakfast too.
the litany of luxury never ending, never inviting question. They ended in the dining room, which could have seated 20 and yet managed to feel like a museum. A long table, inlaid with ebony, stretched the length of the chamber. Above it, another chandelier, this one shaped like a coiled serpent, sparkled in the dusk light. At the far end of the table, a vase held a single white orchid. Chad gestured at it, almost proudly.
Minimalism, you know? Too many details just muddy the effect.
Serena forced a smile.
It's very striking.
As she circled the table, her hip brushed the back of one chair and set it rocking. The noise, small as it was, startled her. She steadied it with both hands, noticing the crescent moon indentations left by fingernails in the polished wood. She pressed her thumb to one, fitting her nail to the groove, and tried to imagine who had sat there before, or if anyone ever had. Chad moved to her side, the tails of his shirt brushing her arm. He placed a hand on her waist, an automatic gesture, as if he couldn't help marking her as his own.
I know it's a lot to take in,
he said, his tone softening.
but you'll settle in soon. This is your home now, Lana.
The name landed like a stone in her stomach. She stared at the orchid, searching its petals for the secret of why she felt so empty. He turned her gently toward him, hands warm through the silk of her blouse.
You really don't remember any of it? Not the parties, or the Christmases, or...
His voice trailed off, the pretense slipping for a second before he caught it. She shook her head, wishing she could give him the answer he wanted.
It's all just blank.
Then, afraid she had disappointed him, she added,
But I want to try, if that's okay.
Chad's eyes glittered with something unreadable. He nodded, stroking her cheek with his thumb.
That's all I could ever ask.
He leaned in and brushed her forehead with his lips. Careful, grazing just above the scar.
Come, I'll show you the gardens. They're spectacular at sunset.
She let him lead her, but as they walked through the halls, she kept glancing over her shoulder, searching for a ghost, a trace, anything to tether her to the life she'd supposedly lived here. The doors to the garden opened onto a stone terrace. Beyond, the lawn spilled toward the horizon in rolling, impossible green. Serena inhaled, expecting the tang of earth, but even the air here was filtered, clean, antiseptic. They walked along a gravel path, Chad's arm ever present, steering her as if she might wander off and disappear into the hedges. Statues dotted the gardens. Greek nymphs, Roman gods, the occasional bust of some English lord. As they passed a marble Cupid, Serena stopped. The statue's hands were missing, broken off at the wrist. For a moment she thought she could hear the faintest echo of laughter, childish, high and wild. But when she turned, Chad was already striding ahead, casting a long, slender shadow on the grass. She hurried to catch up, the scarf slipping back from her forehead. The sun, dipping behind a cloud, caught the edge of her wound and flared white. She winced, and Chad, noticing, paused to adjust the scarf with the meticulous care of a man tying a tie.
You need to be careful,
He said.
The doctor said you shouldn't exert yourself. If you feel dizzy, you tell me. Immediately.
Serena nodded.
I will.
He tucked a stray hair behind her ear.
Good girl.
The phrase was light, almost playful, but the undertone brooked no challenge. They circled the gardens, returning at last to the terrace. Margaret was waiting there, hands folded, her gaze fixed somewhere just beyond Serena's head.
Dinner is at 7.
She said.
Would you like to freshen up, Miss Hartfield?
Serena hesitated, looked to Chad. He answered for her.
Yes, Lana needs to rest before we eat.
To Serena he added,
I'll join you in the library for a drink, if you're up to it.
She nodded, the exhaustion now spreading from her skull to her bones.
Thank you. I'll just...
She gestured vaguely, and Margaret moved to guide her inside. As they ascended the marble staircase, Serena glanced back at Chad, standing framed by the sunset. He raised his glass in salute, then turned away, already dialing his phone as if she had vanished from his attention. Margaret led Serena down a side hallway lined with mirrors. In each reflection, Serena looked both more and less herself, sometimes a shadow, sometimes a stranger. The carpet muffled their steps, and Serena realized with a chill that apart from their voices, she hadn't heard a single sound in the house since she'd arrived. When they reached her room, Margaret paused.
If you require anything, the bell is on the table.
Thank you, Margaret.
Serena hesitated, then added,
You don't have to call me Miss Hartfield. Lana is fine.
Margaret's lips thinned, then shaped themselves into something like a smile.
Of course, Lana. I'll see to your bags.
Serena stepped into the room. The bed was the size of a small continent, covered in layers of cream and dove-grey linen. A window overlooked the front drive, its glass so clear it was almost invisible. At the foot of the bed, a trunk stood open, filled with clothing in every shade of indigo, charcoal, and pearl. She ran her hand over the top layer, a cashmere sweater, soft as cloud, and wondered if she had ever worn it before. She moved to the vanity, set her palms on the lacquered surface. The mirror reflected her face, pale, hollow-eyed, the scarf hiding the ugly truth beneath. She peeled the fabric away, inch by inch, revealing the angry red slash along her brow. It curved above her eye like a question, raw and glistening. She pressed her fingers to the wound, hoping for some sign of herself beneath it. All she felt was the throb of someone else's life, a stranger, trapped in a palace, wearing a borrowed face. The room was silent except for the faint tick of the clock, counting off the seconds of her new beginning.
But the mirror shows a stranger's face. Moonlight drips.
Chapter 3. The Dream. Dinner was a silent performance. Serena and Chad seated at opposite ends of the endless table, their words evaporating before they could cross the gulf. Plates appeared and vanished, each dish a miracle of precision. Tiny lamb medallions, vegetables carved into origami boats, sauces slick as oil paint. The silverware caught the candlelight and threw it back in sharp, icy flares. Serena forced herself to eat. chewing and swallowing as if the motions would unlock some lost routine in her muscles. Chad filled the air with pleasant nothings. Plans for the week, the promise of a garden party once she was herself again, hints about the reclusive neighbors and the absurdities of rural English society. She responded with polite monosyllables, but her mind kept looping back to the emptiness of the house, the way it seemed to absorb sound, the way every corridor ended in a locked door or a glass wall, the way even the staff moved with such muffled efficiency that she sometimes wondered if they existed at all. After the meal, Chad excused himself to take a